Okay, so here comes the question. In a sample of 370 adults selected randomly from one town, it is found that 3% of them have been exposed to a particular strain of the flu. You could put in COVID for our current days. Find the p-value for a test to support the claim that the proportion of all students in the town that have been exposed to the strain of the flu is 8%. Round your answer to 4 places. Okay, how do we do it? So first off, we know, how do we know it's a hypothesis test and not a confidence interval? You see how it talks about p-value and it says test the claim? So it's for sure a hypothesis test, right? We know it's a hypothesis test. And then what do you do first in a hypothesis test? Well, you have to write the claim. That's always where you start. So let me come up here and write claim. And let's figure out what's being claimed. Support the claim that the proportion of all adults who have been exposed to the strain is 8%. P equals 0.08. That's what's being claimed, right? They're claiming that P is means equals. It doesn't say greater or less. It says is 8%. If it said greater than 8%, then I would, go greater than 8%. But it says is 8%, so equals, and it's the proportion. So it's P equals 8%. So that's what's being claimed. Okay, that's always where we start, and then from there we write the HO and the H1. Remember, and what is HO always?
Equals.
Yeah, good job. It's always equals, huh? Always equals, right? Always. And so what are we going to do for H1 then? You know what you could do if you're not sure? You know what I'm going to say, right? Go back to the notes, right? So I'm going to go to the notes. Let me find it here. The exam 3 notes, which are meant to be helpful to you. And it's going to tell us exactly what we do with the hypothesis test in this situation. Let me bring it back. And I'll put it right here. There it is. All right. So what does it say to do? It says write the claim. We did that from the words. Then write HO, which is always equals. We did that. And then one of these two must be the claim from part A above. So option 1, if the claim is equals, that's our situation, huh? Our claim is equals. Then write claim next to HO, and H1 will be not equals. So there we go. So see how our claim here is equals, right? So then that means what those instructions told us to do is write claim next to HO. And that makes sense, right? Because the claim matches HO. So HO is the claim. And H1 is not equals. That's what they told us to do. And you remember how the evidence goes, right? It's always weak. A little more room there. Weak evidence for HO and strong evidence is required to prove H1. They're the two attorneys arguing out the case. Okay, so now what are we going to do from here? Well, let's again go back to the notes, and I'll go to the calculator part of it right there. Move that over for us. And page here. And pop it in. Here we go. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? Well, we have a P percentage. We don't have mean on this one, right? This hypothesis test using P. So what do we do? 1 prop Z test. 1 prop Z test. All right, let's go to it. 1 prop Z test. Okay, so let me do that for us. So I'm going to hit stat on my calculator and go over to tests and go down to one prop Z test, which is number 5. And hit enter. So do that. Okay, and then when you do, right away it'll appear P0 and X and N, like that. And it'll say proportion. Okay, so here's the new part. Is everybody dialing in with me? This is the part I really want you to see. This is the important part that trips up a lot of people on the actual exam. This kind of a question. Here we go. So P0, what am I going to put in P0? I'm right here. Where do we put P0?
HO.
Yeah, right, exactly. Good job. You just grabbed it. It comes from the HO. That's why it has the 0. You just grab it, pop it right there. Nothing new or surprising about that. Okay, but now comes the new part, the part that I really want you to see. What are we going to do with X? What goes right here? Let's look at the notes. It'll tell us what X is. See right here? It's the number asked for, and N is the total number. Number asked for. So it's the number asked for. So it's the number being asked for. So what number is being asked for?
3% of 370.
Yeah, it's talking about we're talking about the number of adults. So yeah, what are we even testing here? When they say number asked for, it means like, what are you testing? What are we even trying to test here? Well, the proportion of all adults that have been exposed to the strain of the flu. So the number exposed, right? That's the number they're asking us for. That's the number we're testing. We're trying to find out is the percentage of adults that are in the town that have been exposed to the strain of the flu, is it 8%, right? That's what we're testing. So the number being asked for is the number that have been exposed. Well, how many have been exposed? Well, in a sample of 370, it is found that 3% of them have been exposed. So 3% of 370. 3% of 370 have been exposed. Right here, I'll put the 370 right there. That's the total. We know that, right? Nothing surprising there. But here's the weird part. People get confused on this part. Are you tracking with me? Watch what I do now. How are we going to find 3% of 370? Because that's the number they're asking for, the number that were exposed, right? That have been exposed. That's what we're talking about. We're trying to find the proportion. And so you got to have the number exposed out of the number total. So how do we find the number? We can't put 3% here, 0.03. That's not right. That's not the number of people exposed. Let me write a note. I'm going to send you a new formula sheet, which has a little more help. And it says here, this must be a whole number, comma, not a decimal. Not a decimal. It's got to be a whole number. It's a number of people. You can't have part of a person. So what do? We take 3%, 0.03 of, remember, of is always times 370. So you take 3% of 370, 0.03 times 370. And when you do, you get 11.1. So that means 11.1 people out of the 370 were exposed, had been, when they did the sample, the survey, they found that many people had been exposed to the flu. Can I put 11.1 here?
No.
No, it's got to be a whole number. So what do? You round it, right? Round to 11. That's the part. I don't want you to be confused about that on the exam. There is one like this on the exam. That's the first thing. There's something else coming.
Mr. Heron,
Yeah.
I have a question. In the
Yeah.
calculator on the X section, can we just put 0.03 times 370 in there? Or do we have to put 11?
You can at first, but then you have to correct it. Let me show you exactly what I mean so there's no confusion. That's a great question. Because that's what we did on the other one, huh? And I remember you saying that at the time, and that was great at the time. But then I realized, that's part of why I spent a couple hours the other day making all these changes, because then I realized that would not always work for everybody because of the fact that sometimes it doesn't come out to be a whole number. It's got to be a whole number. So let me show you. All right, so you're all seeing my calculator, right? Here we go. Right? Can everybody see this? Are you seeing my calculator screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm on the right screen. So I'm going to push stat, go over to test, go down to one prop Z test, enter. What was our P 0.08? 0.08. Go down. Yeah, here's the X. Now let me do exactly what you're saying. Watch. 0.0. Whoops, I missed the point. Let me try again here. 0.03 times 370, right? Because it's 3% of times 370. Watch what happens if I hit enter there. 11.1. We cannot leave it that way. Watch, let me show you what happens if you try to leave it that way. We have to change that to 11 is what we have to do. But let me show you. Let me prove it to you. Watch me do it wrongly. This is what happens to people who do not pay good attention to what I'm saying right now when they get to the exam. They do this. They come down here. Now the prop, what is that supposed to be? It's going to be not equals, right? Because it's always the same as H1. And H1 is not equals. Watch this. Calculate error. Everybody see that? You don't want that happening to you during the exam. That will make you freak out probably. Now, hopefully you won't freak out, but it'll make you very uncomfortable. Why is there an error? You push quit. What's going on? It's the calculator's broken. No, that's why I spent all the time to specifically show you this, so this will not happen to you. So what do I do to fix it? This 11.1 must be rounded because the calculator is expecting a whole number there. It knows it's an actual number of people. You can't have 11.1 people. The truth is this needs to be changed to 11. Let me come down here and change it. Let me clear what's there and make it 11. Does that make sense? So you can put in the 0.03 times 370 at first, and it comes out 11.1, but then as soon as you see it's a decimal, clear it and write in the rounded number. Is that making sense? Why did they give us the percentage? Well, it's 11 people out of 370. That's what they're saying. They sampled 370 people in the town, and they found 11 out of the 370 had been exposed to the flu. If you divide 11 by 370 on your calculator, it is close. It comes out around 3%. It's just, it's not exactly 3%. It's just the closest thing to it. That's how real life works. That's right. When people report percentages, they round them. They say, oh, about 3%. So that's what they're doing in this problem. But we have to know how to deal with that and how to manage our calculator. And so that's important. That's how real life works, right? With technology, you have to be able to take real life and then also know how to communicate with whatever technology software you're using. And in this case, the program has to have a whole number there. We're telling the calculator 11 people out of 370 were exposed to the flu. You can't give it part of a person. It knows better than that. So now it'll work. Come on down to calculate, hit enter. There it is. There is our P number. And by the way, that's something else I want to show you. That's the second big point. All right. So I have two big hurdles that trip up a lot of people on the exam. And I put them both into this one problem. I spent time rewriting this problem so it would show you both of those big concepts. Here comes the second one. So the first one is, what do you do when you get a decimal for your X? You round it. You round it because you can only have a whole number. The second point is, look at my p-value. Look at that. 3.6492008. What's this E minus 4? What's that? Do you all see that?
Doesn't that mean 10 times that number times 10 to the negative fourth power?
Yeah, good job, good job. And what does that mean we do with the decimal?
You'd move it to the left.
Yeah, the negative left 4 places. Excellent. Does everybody know that? I'm going to write this out in a second. Do you see that? That I don't want that to trip you up either. That's the other thing that trips people up. They're going on their merry way during the exam, doing the problems, and all of a sudden the calculator pops up with this E thing. They're like, "What's that?" Well, that's why I'm telling you right now. So for those who don't spend time listening to this, they will run into that problem and perhaps not know what to do. But you all are going to know what to do. This will happen. I promise. This will happen on the actual exam. You'll get one. You need to know how to deal with this. E to the minus 4 means move the decimal left 4 places. All right, back to my iPad. I'm going to write out all that stuff I was just saying to you so we have it clearly. All right. Okay, back to it. Here's the problem. So let me finish it up here. Down here, the proportion was not equals because it always matches H1. So put those numbers, you have to round, right? So you put in your 11 there. Okay, and then the p-value comes out. Let me finish it up on my calculator. And it was 370. And I'm getting that p-value, which is 3.6492008 E minus 4. So this is the part I want to make sure you know how to handle. So that E minus 4 means you take this decimal point right here, and you go back 1, and you're to the edge of the number 2, 3, 4. Those all bring in zeros, don't they? See how I moved back 4 places? E minus 4, we move the decimal left 4 places. That's what the negative is. The negative means move left. Move left 4 places. So then the p-value actually equals 0.00036492, blah, blah, blah. Are you with me? So I moved left 4 places. The first jump went over the 3 to the edge, and the other 3 jumps went beyond the edge, so they brought in zeros. And then you put in the line. Now notice, this is the other part. People get confused. They go, Mr. Aaron, I don't know how far to round. Well, just look at the answers. Plus, it told you right here, 4 places. See how they're all rounded to 4 decimal places? So I'm going to round to 4 places. Here we go, right there. So it's going to be 0.000. This 6 tells us to round that to 4. So the answer is 0.004. So be careful. You don't want to grab the 0.003 because it's 3.6. And so that rounds to 4. And so there we go. Those are the 2 hurdles I want to make sure you get over on exam day. The first one is, what do we do? This X value needs to be a whole number. What do we do when they give us a percentage? Well, you take 3% of, meaning 0.03 times 370, comes out to be a decimal. You round it because it's got to be a whole number. So make a note for yourself about that. And secondly, what do we do when we get an E? That means back 4 places, 0.00036, round it 0.004. So down here, I would write a note, because you can use these notes on the exam. I would add a note right here, and I would say, must be a whole number for this X. Must be a whole number. I'd write myself right on my own notes. This is what I did to get ready for tests in college. I'd write must be a whole number, not a decimal. For a percentage, multiply the percentage times the total. Right? That's what I did. I took 0.03 times 370 and got 11.1, and then I rounded it to 11. I would just write an example right there. See, I just wrote out an example of what I'm talking about. For a percentage, multiply 0.03 times 370, get that, and then round it. So that's what I would do, is write something like that for myself right next to that. All right, I'm going to move up and out of this problem. So there it is, a tricky question. I hope it all makes sense for you and that you master all that for the exam.